Hey, what's up guys? Today the doors finally opened up for Computex 2019's exhibition hall, and today we're getting hands-on with quite a few X570 motherboards from MSI. We'll be looking at their entire X570 range today, from the enthusiast Godlike all the way down to the Gaming Plus, and we'll be talking about specifically what upgrades have been made from X470. And a quick thanks to MSI for making our Computex 2019 trip possible. You can check out their entire X570 motherboard lineup for gamers and creators in the link in the description. Alright, so if you missed yesterday's video, you should definitely go back and watch that. But basically, yesterday AMD announced 5 new Ryzen 3rd Gen CPUs. All are PCIe 4.0 ready, with the current top SKU being a 12-core 3900X. Although we are pretty much set on a 16-core model in the works, that hasn't been announced just yet. Overall, these new X570 motherboards have been beefed up to support these higher core count parts and the additional PCIe 4.0 bandwidth and chipset power. So let's start off with the bottom end of the stack, which is the X570 Gaming Plus and Edge. And for what should be the cheapest X570 boards available, they surely do look a lot more beefier than usual. One big upgrade that we're getting across the stack, even for these lower end motherboards, are international rectifier MOSFET and PWM controllers for the VRM. So even on the Gaming Plus, the PWM controller here is the IR35201, driving that new VRM. The VRM here has been confirmed to be an 8+2+1 VRM phase layout for both of these boards. The 8 phases for the CPU are likely doubled to 4 phases from what we know so far. This is the new power delivery system that will feed the higher core count parts, so it's great to see that this has been a big focus. MSI were pretty confident that even these mainstream boards will run those higher core count parts without an issue, so I'm looking forward to testing that in the coming months. The VRM heatsink design has also been reworked. We're now getting a more significant fin stack for heat dissipation. We also have some passive cooling here for the top M.2 slot for both of these boards, a cutout in the PCB for the SATA ports, and a big topic of discussion is the fan for the chipset heatsink. Now, I'll be the first to say that I thought that this fan would only be added in for those higher end boards, but it does look like MSI have slapped it on these mainstream boards as well. So because of the extra power needed to run PCIe 4.0, the chipset cooling does actually need to be addressed. MSI were pretty confident in this little fan running pretty quiet. It's a double ball bearing fan that you can adjust a few different RPM fan profiles for in the BIOS. The X570 Pro Carbon steps up the VRM now to a doubled 10 phase for the CPU, a 6-layer PCB, a beefier heatsink, additional RGB, and now cooling for both of the M.2 slots. Again, we do see that chipset fan. That's going to take some getting used to for sure. Now, if you are serious about overclocking the higher core count 3rd gen Ryzen CPUs as far as possible, this is the board I'd likely recommend. So this is the new X570 MEG Ace. It's running a 12 VRM phase layout for the CPU. Again, likely doubled 6 phases, but the exact configuration can't be confirmed just yet. What's pretty neat here is that we have a heat pipe running through both VRM heatsinks all the way down to the chipset. We're also getting an additional M.2 slot here, so 3 in total, and overall just a really solid looking board. Again, for enthusiasts who don't want to shell out half of their build budget for the X570 Godlike, this looks like a pretty solid choice. Speaking of the X570 Godlike, let's take a look at that one next, and it does feature a similar onboard cooling design to the X570 Ace, so we do have that heat pipe running through the VRMs and down to the chipset. The VRM here is said to be 14 phases for the CPU and 2 for the SoC. Out of all of the X570 MSI boards, this was the only one to run 4 PCI Express slots, so just keep that in mind if you are planning on doing a massive GPU configuration. With the Godlike, you also get an M.2 expander card with active cooling, allowing you to run an additional 2 M.2 drives, and you do also get a 10 gig Ethernet card here too. Lastly, we do have the X570 Creation Board. MSI are targeting towards enthusiast content creators. They said this is the only X570 board on the market to max out the USB capability of the chipset, allowing for 24 USB connections in total, with 14 of those being on the rear. This one will likely share the same VRM configuration as the Godlike, so overclocking even the highest core count parts for 3rd gen Ryzen should not be an issue here. And just a reminder here, these are X570 boards, not Threadripper boards, although that is slowly really what they're becoming. Overall, the X570 lineup from MSI is extremely broad, all the way from the mainstream gaming plus all the way up to the Godlike and Creation, supporting from 6-core CPUs all the way up to the rumored 16-core. So it's clear that AMD have received a ton of support from motherboard partners like MSI. These boards aren't just slight refreshes. X570 is clearly worth investing the additional testing and development with what we've seen from these new boards. We'll be taking a look at a few more X570 motherboards from other vendors soon, so definitely stay tuned for that. As always guys, a huge thanks for watching. Consider subscribing down below if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one.